What's up, guys? This is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com, and we are back with another episode of the Michigan Recruiting Report. Instead of our usual Tuesday live show, we are having a special Victor's Weekend Recruiting Report, and we're going to have a special guest on later in the show, VP of Recruiting, Steve Wilfong. So you are not going to want to miss that. But before we dive into our Victor's Weekend special, I do want to remind you guys to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, and also subscribe to the Wolverine.com using the promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months over at the Wolverine.com. There's so many good stories coming out of Victor's Weekend, a lot of news, a lot of buzz. So make sure to head over to the Wolverine.com. Use that promo code $1 for use the promo code UM1, $1 for 2 months. Sign up today. So yeah, like I said, we'll talk with Steve Wiltfong later on in the show. But obviously, Victor's Weekend had Michigan Twitter buzzing, our message board over at the Wolverine.com. The fort was buzzing. Everybody was talking about Michigan recruiting, which was great to see. The Wolverines pulled in 4 commitments this weekend, including 3 from Victor's Weekend, the lone exception being on 300 running back Donovan Johnson, who made an unofficial visit earlier in the week. But let's go ahead and just focus on the weekend visitors. 3 commits coming out of the OV weekend. And let's start off with Kaden Strayhorn, man. I really like Kaden Strayhorn, Michigan State legacy, 3-star offensive lineman out of IMG Academy. Now, Kaden is a guy that, a lot of people just expected to end up at Michigan State, but Michigan did a fantastic job of making him feel like a priority. He always felt like a Michigan type of kid. And, I put in my prediction going into the visit, and the Wolverines were obviously able to close. Now, he's not super highly touted in terms of rankings, but that's because he's more of a center prospect, and centers usually aren't valued that high when it comes to recruiting rankings. But I think he has an argument as the best center in the country. And so, Strayhorn was a quality land. He actually committed on Saturday afternoon. So even though he didn't publicly announce until Sunday, I think it was around 5 p.m. Eastern, he actually committed Saturday afternoon, which allowed him to recruit others. So he was very active behind the scenes while he was silently committed and recruiting guys like Hardy Watson, Nataniel, Owusu-Boateng, who's his teammate at IMG. But Kaden was one of 3 commits. Stick on the offensive side of the ball. Michigan also picked up a commitment from 4-star wide receiver Jacob Washington out of Louisiana. Now, Michigan really needed a big-bodied wide receiver this cycle, and I thought that, Michigan had some really good options on the board. Obviously, Quincy Porter ended up going to Ohio State, so that kind of opened the door for Jacob Washington to get into class. Now, yes, there are still guys on the board like Derek Meadows, who's a top 100 recruit, Jerome Miles, who just decommitted from Ole Miss, and Michigan's going to continue to recruit those guys, but they didn't want to miss on an opportunity to get Washington in the class, especially since Meadows and Miles will require some more work right now. Michigan isn't the favorite in either recruitment, so they wanted to secure Washington, who I think brings a lot of upside, man. He's 6'3", 180 pounds. When you look at the tape, you see some decent long speed for his size. He's a big red zone target, big target over the middle. Michigan hadn't landed a bigger wide receiver since the 2022 recruiting class when they picked up Amarion Walker and Darius Clemens. Obviously, Darius Clemens is no longer with the program. Walker's bounced back from the secondary room to the wide receiver room. So they needed to add some size. They couldn't risk not getting some size in this class. So they ended up pressing for Washington this weekend. Obviously, he committed. He's a teammate of Jasper Parker, Michigan's running back commit. I think they'll stay solid through signing day. So Ron Bellamy, a Louisiana native, with 2 wins in his home state. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, Michigan obviously picked up a commitment from 3-star linebacker Chase Taylor out of Georgia. Now, Chase Taylor isn't a guy that is super highly rated But he is a prospect that Michigan made a priority from the very beginning. And, they just, the staff, I feel like, values Chase Taylor a lot more than the recruiting services. He's about 6'2.5". He's listed at 201 pounds, but closer to 215, 220 right now. So he's filling out his frame nicely. He has the athleticism. He has the length. I don't think you'll hear from Chase Taylor right away. I think it's going to take at least a few years for him to develop from a technical standpoint and the strength and conditioning program and all that good stuff. Could be a sleeper that, rises to the occasion later on in his career. There's a lot to like about his upside. He does have a very scary floor, which is, why he's pretty much a 3-star prospect across the board. He's just such an intriguing athlete, but he's a little bit of a mystery. You don't really know what you're going to get out of him. The good thing is Michigan has a good track record of hitting on guys with high ceilings. And, I think they can turn Chase Taylor into a really good player at the University of Michigan. So those were the 3 commits coming out of Victor's weekend, but obviously a lot more intel. And we'll cover a few names with Steve Wilfong, some names I'll cover here on my own. Taz Williams, 4-star wide receiver out of Texas. Now, the Taz Williams recruitment is one of the more fascinating ones for me because you look at Michigan, they just picked up that commitment from Jacob Washington, so he fills the outside receiver role. And remember, Michigan came into this cycle looking to only take 3 wide receivers. They're trending for Andrew Marsh, who we'll talk about with Steve. Then they're trending for Philip Wright, who made an official visit last weekend. So if they are able to land Wright and Marsh, where does that leave Taz Williams? Now, it's important to note that Taz Williams is making a decision before Andrew Marsh. So it's going to be curious to see. I'm curious to see how Michigan handles, the wide receiver takes when it comes to inside guys. Do they take Wright and Williams and wait for Marsh to make his decision in August? Do they, maybe not make room? I don't know. It's interesting. I can say that Michigan is right up there for Taz Williams. They're in his Final Four, along with Penn State, SMU, and Texas A&M. It's unclear exactly where he is on the A&M board. SMU is a little bit of a dark horse school. They have some NIL, and obviously they're close to his current home. Remember, Taz is originally from Pennsylvania, and that's why Penn State has become a player in this recruitment. They impressed him on the OV. So I still think, even though he's set to make his decision in less than a month on July 13, there's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to Taz Williams. Next guy I want to go ahead and knock out is Maxwell Roy. His recruitment has shifted quite a bit here since Victor's weekend. So Michigan was considered the heavy favorite to land 4-star defensive lineman Maxwell Roy coming into the OV weekend. He is now trending towards Ohio State. And, that kind of puts a little bit of a damper on things here. I just switched my prediction to the Buckeyes. From what I've been able to gather, Ohio State was able to make a move here late on his official visit last week. And then, they had the advantage when it came to NIL. They also have the advantage of just having a really strong connection to his high school, St. Joe Prep. St. Joe Prep is historically Ohio State friendly. And I think, that plays a role here as well. So if Roy does end up spurning Michigan for Ohio State, it will be a tough loss since the expectation was for him to end up in Ann Arbor. Now, with Roy trending away, I think it's pretty clear that Michigan is going to keep Bobby Kanka in the fold. I know there were a lot of questions about 4-star in-state Michigan commit Bobby Kanka coming into this visit. He took an OV to Michigan State and then came in for Victor's weekend this weekend. And the thing with Bobby Kanka is, he's a guy that has a high floor, but not a lot of athleticism. I think, they were a little unsure about him. Remember, Kanka committed to Michigan before the arrival of Lou Esposito and Wink Martindale. So, I think the staff kind of reevaluated him a little bit, but with Roy trending elsewhere, with him making his OV this weekend, I think Michigan is going to keep him in the fold. And I think Kanka is going to remain solid to the Wolverines. So I would expect Kanka to end up signing with Michigan when it's all said and done. And look, he's a high floor guy. He's a guy that Mike Elston really liked. And remember, Mike Elston, Michigan's former D-line coach, was a really good evaluator of talent. So maybe Kanka does become a key contributor later on in his career. Now, another prospect that I want to talk about really quick before we get into Steve is Kamar Archie. I think Michigan has done a tremendous job with Archie, and they're right up there with Clemson and Rutgers. And I think that recruitment is definitely going to come down to the wire. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on Kamar because we do have Steve ready to roll in the docket. So we do have our interview coming up here with Steve Wilfong, who has arrived. All right, guys, we have our special guest, Steve Wilfong, coming in, VP of recruiting now at On3. You guys should know Wilfong. He's a staple in the recruiting world, a legend, a guy I've known for about a decade now, right, Steve? You've known me since I was like 19 years old, and now I'm like 30. So it's been a while. How you doing, Steve?
Doing well, man, but I don't think anyone's doing as well as Michigan recruiting right now. Wolverines are on a heater right now and trending for several more.
No, definitely. We're obviously going to talk about that now, Steve. We put in some predictions together this weekend. Let's talk about a couple of those. One was Andrew Marsh, which had a really interesting turn. He was supposed to visit Oklahoma this weekend. Instead, ended up going to Michigan for his OV. Things changed quickly there. Tell me a little bit about why you put in your prediction for the Wolverines.
Well, I mean, prior to him locking in that Michigan visit last minute, I would have told you that Oklahoma was the leader over Michigan. But he's been to Michigan a bunch of times. And when he replaced Michigan with Oklahoma, it sounded real promising. You were out in front of that one, but getting a chance to talk to Andrew, getting a chance to talk to some folks that spent time with him during his weekend visit, we obviously both logged the RPM in favor of Michigan. He had a chance to really spend a lot of time around the entire coaching staff. He hung out with the current players, other recruits. He says his relationship grows with them every time. He just feels very comfortable with the guys that he'll share a locker room with. Coach Ron Bellamy's been leading the charge in that recruitment. He feels he can really trust him. Then he really hit it off with Carter Smith over the weekend and thinks that they can be dynamic together in Ann Arbor. So all signs right now pointing towards the maize and blue for Andrew Marsh.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel the same way. I put in that prediction as well. Just something to note here with Marsh. He was originally set to make a commitment in November. He is looking at moving that timeline up to August, and he will be back at Michigan for the barbecue in July. Now, Marsh wasn't the only prospect that we put in predictions for. We also put in predictions for Andrew Olesh, top 100 tight end out of Pennsylvania. Kind of the same thing, Steve. Why'd you make that pick?
Well, I got a chance to spend some time with Andrew Olesh last week in Los Angeles. He was out at the Elite 11 finals catching passes for those talented quarterbacks. Carter Smith should have been invited to that event. It kind of blows me away. Gatorade Player of the Year or Gatorade State Player of the Year, Florida, huge upside. Michigan commit. Would have loved to have seen him out there competing, but got a chance to see Andrew Olesh out there competing and talking to him beforehand, talking to sources with knowledge of the recruitment. Sounds like Michigan was the one to beat going into the visit. And then, it felt that after the experience in Ann Arbor, a second time there where he was hosted by Colston Loveland, I like where Michigan stands. So it's up to Alabama or Penn State to change that right now. But I think the momentum is with Michigan.
I agree as well. Obviously, I made that pick. I exchanged a few messages with Andrew over the last couple of days, and I get the sense that the Wolverines are really the team to beat here, and I would expect him to make an announcement at some point, maybe next week. So we'll continue to track that. Another prospect I wanted to talk to you about on the offensive side of the ball, you haven't put in a prediction yet, I believe. I have, and he set a commitment date yesterday, and that's Hardy Watts, on 300 offensive lineman out of New England, set to commit next Monday, July 1st. Steve, how are you feeling about that one?
I think Michigan's the one to beat. I just needed one more little nudge before I put in that on 3 RPM. But I think you're going to be safe there with your prediction for Hardy Watts, who had a great visit to campus there this weekend. Obviously, Michigan's track record of offensive line development is something that Watts has spoken highly of. He's also talked about the winning the best of both worlds, academically and athletically, and just the coaches in general excite him. I think, talking to him, talking to sources, I like Michigan, so I wouldn't be surprised if I'm in on the on 3 RPM in the very near future.
Obviously, that news will excite Michigan fans, and it'll be interesting to see how things play out along the offensive line. Really quick, while we're kind of on this topic, because Michigan has 2 commits, they're trending for Watts. That could be 3. The guy they would make room for a 4th would be Andrew Babalola, and I know a lot of fans are interested. So while we're on the topic of offensive line recruiting, let's just veer a little bit away from Victor's weekend. Tell us the latest on Babalola. You've been all over that one.
Well, he took his official visit to Oklahoma over the weekend, and for the first time, talking to sources, instead of hearing "and Stanford," I heard "and Michigan." And so I think that official, Michigan's always been one of the front runners for Andrew Babalola. They've done a good job recruiting him and his mother, getting him to campus several times. Similar to Hardy Watts, I think he sees Michigan as the best of both worlds, a chance to compete at the highest level on the football field while also being challenged and reaching his academic dreams. For much of the process, teams were like, it's us and Stanford, So I think that Michigan is a program you definitely can't discount in this recruitment. I know Sherrone Moore and the staff will be talking to him again this week as he goes into decision mode. And the Wolverines have a lot going for them for Andrew Babalola. Michigan's right outside the top 10 right now, could be in the top 10 soon. And if you get guys like Andrew Babalola, we'll see how high this thing can go.
Definitely would be a massive land there for Michigan. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. A guy that you know very well is Nataniel Marshall. Ended up taking an official visit to Auburn while still being committed to Michigan. The Wolverines got him back on campus this weekend. Following his trip to Ann Arbor, are you feeling like Michigan will keep him? Do you still think Auburn is a major threat? Where are you at with that recruitment?
Well, I think that the people that spent time with him think that he is locked in with Michigan and good to go. I think that they had some of those final conversations of, what it looks like as a Michigan football player in the current landscape of college football. And I think everybody's comfortable with everything. It was kind of a surprise when Nate Marshall committed in the spring. It was a surprise when he visited at Auburn, but no surprise to me that the intel says that he's sticking with Michigan, kid out of Chicagoland, mom's in the DePaul Hall of Fame. She was an outstanding basketball player that played in the WNBA for a long time. His grandfather played at Illinois. His father played college sports. This is a well-seasoned, well-versed family that was looking for a variety of things, and I think Michigan checks the boxes there. And I think Nate Marshall's locked in with the Maize and Blue.
Obviously, great to hear. Nate Marshall will be making a return visit for the barbecue in late July. So another plus and another step towards keeping him locked in. Let's talk about a big-time linebacker, another top 100 recruit, Nataniel Owusu-Boateng, tweeting a ton about Michigan. The fan base is extremely excited. Now, going into this official visit, we had talked a little bit about it for the site over at thewolverine.com. And you kind of mentioned, Michigan's in this top group, but it's unclear exactly where they sit within that top group. So how are you feeling about Boateng now?
Yeah, I think they're in the top 2. They're giving him a lot to think about. Obviously, his brother starred at Notre Dame, Jeremiah Owusu, who won the Butkus Award. So he's been around that program a lot, and Marcus Freeman and company have done a good job recruiting him. But he took his official visits to Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, and USC, with Michigan getting the last one. And he said this visit outshined, his other 3 visits, and talked about Michigan's program focusing on the small details, and that's why the reigning national champs and from the head coach to the assistants. You can feel the genuineness there. You know, he just said everybody cares about the development of the player and the man there. So it really fits his personality. Again, we've talked about it a lot. I've said it for years. I know there's a great recruiting rivalry between Michigan and Notre Dame, but generally, if you like one, you like the other. And so we'll see what happens with him making his decision. I think Sherrone Moore and this coaching staff gave him a lot to think about coming out of his visit.
Sticking with Michigan, Notre Dame recruitment, Michigan did have a Notre Dame commit on campus, top 100 safety, Ivan Taylor. Now, it seems like a tough one to get a read on from all sides. Alabama is still involved in this one as well. Steve, what can you tell us about the Ivan Taylor recruitment?
Well, I don't think this was his first time at Michigan since he's been committed to Notre Dame. So I think that there's been some genuine interest in Michigan. I don't have any feel for if he's going to flip to Bama or Michigan or stick with Notre Dame. Those cards are being held close to the vest. I'm of the understanding that after taking those official visits, he's going to go home, talk things over with his family. His dad's obviously Ike Taylor, who was a hell of a player in his day. They're going to feel it out and go from there. But I think Michigan, they've been in it for a while here, and so we'll see if they can pull it out.
So that kind of concludes that list. I know you're limited on time, Steve, so just a couple of overarching questions. Just kind of general thoughts on Michigan recruiting right now as they're trying to build momentum this summer.
Well, I think that they've landed some premier players in this class and some guys that have a lot of upside, and Michigan is development U. You know, you look at a guy like Nate Marshall, he's got all the traits to be one of the best players in the Big Ten. Kenoa Winston is a really interesting get in the secondary. And Carter Smith, I just absolutely love that pickup. Again, he is arguably the best dual threat quarterback in the class. I think he's still raw as a passer and a quarterback. He's an outstanding shortstop, comes from professional baseball pedigree. I think that we're just now tapping into how good Carter Smith can be. And he's got a chance to really make Michigan's offense be explosive in a variety of ways when it's his turn under center. Jalen Williams and Nate Marshall, those are just some unique body types at the point of attack that we've seen Michigan develop so often. And then the two running backs committed, Donovan Johnson and Jasper Parker. It's an interesting combination there. And if they're able to add Olesh to Eli Owens, those guys can create some serious mismatches at the tight end position. Eli Owens is more of that old school H-back type player, but he's physical out in space and can make things happen, and a guy that Michigan absolutely coveted.
Awesome. So last question for you, Steve. Obviously, Sherrone Moore was considered one of the top recruiters in the Big Ten, if not around the country, when he was an assistant. Now, obviously, he is the head coach. How do you think he's doing so far as a recruiter at the head coach spot?
Well, I think he's someone that embraces being involved as a recruiter and loves building these meaningful connections with guys that he could potentially coach. And so now he gets to cast his net wider as a head coach, and he's in the middle of these top targets. He's a guy that knows who's on the board, knows who they're recruiting. He's part of the evaluation, and he's part of the recruiting process. So I think with Michigan, they have an engaging guy in their corner office that's going to be eloquent in the message of Michigan. And this class is trending towards the top 10. So far, so good.
Awesome, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Michigan Recruiting Report. And as always, you can find Steve over at On3 Now, our new VP of recruiting. Thanks again, Steve. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks again to Steve Wilfong for joining the show. Always great to have Steve. Obviously, he's one of, if not the best recruiting expert in the industry, does a fantastic job over at On3. And you can find some of his work at thewolverine.com, which, obviously, like I said earlier, take advantage of that special promo, $1 for 2 months using the promo code UM1. Get everything from me and Steve Wilfong over at thewolverine.com. Now, that Steve Wilfong interview is actually brought to you by our sponsor, My Perfect Franchise. Are you a displaced corporate executive or wanting to put your career into your own hands? Or are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? Andy Ludicky can help. Andy is a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using his expertise, he helps others find their American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. Best of all, his services are 100% free to you. So what do you have to lose? I mean, come on. Everybody has dreamed of owning a franchise. I know everybody wants their own, Chick-fil-A or Culver's or the Dairy Queen, man. These are staples, and Andy can help you become a franchise owner. Andy can be found at myperfectfranchise.net, or you can call him directly at 404-973-9901. Or again, just visit him over at myperfectfranchise.net. And you can email Andy and set up a Zoom call at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. All right, guys, let's wrap up tonight's show. Didn't really get to finish my thoughts on Kamar Archie there. Now, as I was saying, the on 300 linebacker out of New Jersey, he does have a really tight race here between Clemson, Rutgers, and Michigan. I thought Michigan really moved the needle. I think the Wolverines did everything right. But the thing about Michigan is, they were very high on his list early on, then things kind of cooled off. And during that time, it allowed Clemson and Rutgers to make a big run for him. So I think this is a super tight battle. And talking with Kamar Archie last night, he told me he's hoping to make his decision at some point in the next couple of weeks. I know Michigan is in a pretty good spot here for Owusu-Boateng, as Steve Wilfong mentioned, but we can't forget about Kamar Archie. He's an absolute stud. You guys know I've been high on him for a while. So it would be great if Michigan could land both, especially with Chase Taylor, who we talked about at the top of the show, being a little bit more of a project. I think Archie and Boateng are more safe takes, more natural linebackers at this point in their development. Last recruit we're going to hit on is top 100 safety Jordan Young out of North Carolina. Now, Jordan Young's an interesting recruitment, kind of tough to read exactly where Michigan stands. I would say they're in his top 4, which is reflected here in the On3 recruiting prediction machine that you can see on the screen. Clemson, NC State, Florida State, Michigan all received official visits this summer. I think Michigan made some positive moves, built up some good momentum. The last time Jordan Young was on campus was in the spring. He only got to spend a day at Michigan. So this time around, he was able to have a more in-depth look at Michigan, more in-depth conversations with the coaching staff. I think that certainly helped. I would still probably give Clemson and Florida State the advantage in this recruitment. But overall, this one is supposed to go till October. So Jordan Young has been clear that he wants to take it into October. We'll see if he changes his mind. But if it does go to October, I think that's actually an advantage for Michigan because it gives the staff more time to recruit him, build that relationship, and show on the field as well with their on-field results and get him in for a game. There's a lot Michigan can do with extended time if he waits until October. So that one's going to be an interesting recruitment to follow if it does end up lasting that long. And, also an opportunity to get him back in July. The barbecue at the Big House should feature plenty of top targets. So I'm sure they'll work to get Young back to campus again. But this one, I think Michigan in that top 4, but still trying to work their way up. So I think we covered basically everybody. All the commits were on campus as well. Everybody from Carter Smith to Eli Owens to Avery Gash, they all put their best foot forward in trying to help Michigan recruit others. And obviously the weekend produced 3 commitments from guys that were actually on campus for Victor's weekend, as well as Donovan Johnson. So successful times over in Ann Arbor, and obviously a lot of fun. So again, remember to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Head over to thewolverine.com, $1, 2 months. Use that promo code UM1. And I know this wasn't a live show it was pre-recorded because we did have the opportunity to get Wilfong on. So shout out to him again. But I will be back for the live Q&A show tomorrow here on our YouTube channel. So again, like and subscribe and tune in tomorrow for the Q&A.